Say, Jarvis, is it that time?
The house party protocol, sir?
Correct.
Welcome to The Pull Bag. Join us as we dig out our latest comics and discuss them with a rotating panel of the GCRN crew. So sit back and enjoy this week's Pull Bag.
Hello and welcome to The Pull Bag. This is episode 307. I'm, of course, TFG1Mike, and joining me is MovieRevolt Dan, the Comic Concierge. Hello, sir.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm doing well. Excited to talk some more I Hate Fairyland.
Yeah, it's been a little over a year since we last talked about this series. I forgot, everything that's happened. I had to actually go back and reread issue 10 to figure out where the hell we are in this story.
Luckily, I feel it's a comic that you can pretty much pick up any issue for the most part and get it.
Yeah, obviously. So, I screen capped the back of the trade here, because we are covering this in trade, folks. The Volume 3, which covers issues 11 to 15. I'll look at the end of the show to see if they've got a new trade out yet or coming soon for whatever the next run is going to be, whenever Scotty does the next run. Get the fluff out of Fairyland. Ignoring the lessons of her future battle self, Gert geeks out, gets geeked on, and gets got, and goes good while she explores the convention world, makes rash generalizations about other cultures, and deftly navigates the consequences of her own actions. Her trusty, if not mouthy, questing guide, Larry, pulls an It's a Wonderful Life and realizes he actually might like and miss Gert as her last-ditch effort to get out of Fairyland once and for all doesn't go exactly as planned. Oh boy. Well, that description of Gert is somebody call Roseanne, please? Anyway.
Too soon.
Not really. It's all over the news. But anyway. Oh my god. So yeah, we have you been reading this all along since the last record? Have you been reading it issue by issue? Because I haven't. This is the first time I've read these.
I've been keeping up with it pretty regularly. I don't read it every month, but I usually have a couple. Reread most of these. I am ahead of where this last trade ends up, so I do know where this story goes. But yeah, I've been keeping current with it pretty regularly.
Cool. Yeah, I have not. I just don't have the time. And that's one of the reasons why I waited for us to do this in trade, because I can't do... I mean, there's certain comics I can do single issues on for reviewing on the show, but others not so much.
And I think this is probably a better comic anyways to review via trade, because it's, the issues are good, but no, it's not designed to be this hugely well-developed story, even though it is. But by looking at it in this trade, I think you kind of seeing where the story is developing, and especially in this volume where I know this is I think Scotty Young announced its endpoint, so it's only got a volume or two left after this, and here you're seeing a lot of development with Gertrude as she's turning the corner or trying to become good. One of the first things we talked about when we first talked about the series was that I didn't know if this was a joke that could go on past 5 issues, and here we are. This is the third volume of it, and I think Scotty Young's done a really good job of just developing it and finding new ways to approach it. And in this, it's probably the most growth Gertrude has had within a volume.
Yeah, it really is. It's not just about the jokes anymore. The jokes are there, and they're great, especially with the setting that this volume, at least the first part of this volume, takes place in. But it's not just about, basically the name of the trade is Good Girl. Some of the subtitles for the stories, when we did issues 7 and 8 and 9 and 10... 7 and 8 was How to Drain Your Dragon, and 9 and 10 was Splat in the Hat. Well, we kind of have that here, but we also don't have that here. It's like you said, Scotty has apparently said that there is going to be an endpoint for the series, and that's great. That's if you can kick off, make your series as popular as it has become, continue on giving the fans that love it a great, run. Not all comics have to reach 800 issues or 1,000 issues or whatever, or be renumbered to be able to reach those numbers, because guess what? Reboots are everywhere. Yes, it's DC and Marvel poking fun time here, folks. Alright, so we start with Chapter 11. They're at the Fairyland version of Comic Con.
Yeah, it's weird because it's like the first time we're seeing Gertrude actually be legitimately happy or being a fan of someone at this extent. So that was kind of interesting seeing her actually, fangirl out, as they say, to this barbarian lady. But I wasn't sure at first where this is exactly going, and then we see it flipped on its head by the end of the issue. But it was fun. It's again, Scotty Young's been finding ways to kind of poke fun at nerd culture or parody it, like comic books in general, and of course, why not have some sort of take on your classic Comic-Con, or where you would get all your swag, or in this case, gwag.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love when she goes to get the food and it ends up exploding, and she goes, "I didn't know the thing would make the other thing do that thing." Oh, that's funny.
It's not many people could get away with a joke like that, but it works in this context.
Yep. So, like you said, basically Gert's going to see Gwag the Barbarian. And, yeah, it's a barbarian-looking chick. It's basically Conan with tits. And no, folks, I don't mean the TBS toast, because that would just be disgusting.
It's like a Red Sonja type of character. But she eventually runs into someone who's a huge fan of her, and of course is kind of freaked out by it by the end of it. And however, this is kind of spurs off what this overall story arc was going to be about, as you see her trying to come to terms and seeing a reflection of herself and how it actually does impact her. And she's like, okay, she's gotta do something, because it's been the one thing that's actually kind of shooken her to the point where she's like, wow, I'm an awful person. And that leads us into really where the story's going for this next few issues.
Yeah, it really does. And it's one of those things where, like I said, I didn't remember what I could have sworn at the end of issue 10 we left off on some sort of cliffhanger type thing. I didn't remember, so I had to go back and read it, and then I read this, and I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. So we spend a few panels, pages, whatever, of this issue going into, like you said, the whole fan thing. I love the beginning of the trade. I don't know if you have this in trade or single issue. In the beginning of the trade, there's a quote from the girl that's portraying Gert, like the Comic-Con girl that's dressed up as her. And then it comes back in these final pages here where Gert basically just kills her and runs off into the sunset. And that's kind of how 11 ends. I like 11. I think it's fun. I think it's funny. I think it's interesting to see where it's going to go. I still love Scotty's style. What I love about a lot of creators now is when they do their own stuff. Sure, not when I say anybody, I don't mean anybody, but most comic creators can get a job at Marvel, obviously if they're lucky enough to do that, and write classic characters. But for me right now, seeing people like Scotty Young, like Tom Zoller, like whomever, Pat Chand, writing creator own stuff is really fun and cool, because it's introducing us to something new, something interesting, something different, something that's not your standard superhero fare.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because you say that as Scotty Young's about to start writing on Deadpool. He's taking over duties there, which I'm actually quite excited for. But certainly with this, this does feel like the perfect meshing of what makes him such a great writer and artist. Him having complete freedom and maybe able to do what he wants. Like, this is taking the cartoony style that many people know him from, but able to also put his humor in it as well. And I tend to like Scotty Young the most when he's writing and drawing his own stuff, because I feel like no one really can get his sense of humor artistically well as he can, and which is, I think, why this has been as successful as it has been.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Issue 12 basically focuses on Gert and her new quest of trying to be good, and all of that, and has a beautiful, beautiful shot, like the second page in, of her doing her ninja, actually samurai moves, in the sky next to the moon or the sun or whatever. And I'll give Scotty props for this volume, this whole entire volume. No sun, no moon was hurt in the making of these comics. Not this time, anyway.
No. There was a callback to it, but
yeah, there was. Yeah,
I was really impressed with Scotty Young in this issue because, like, we've seen a lot of the action in this, which has been kind of your cartoony action, but in here, like, the way he apes the classic, martial art style, it's fantastic. There was that issue way back when where it's one of the few issues he didn't draw, which was drawn by someone else. Here, it was kind of cool just seeing, it's almost like Frank Miller-esque in a way with the way he, especially the page that you mentioned of Gert jumping through with the moon in the background. But I was really impressed with the way he had a lot of the classic martial arts look with the horizontal lines right across the screen to the one huge splash page between Gert and the dialogue page between her and one of the mushroom leaders. Yeah. I thought wow, this is him kind of diving deep into the style, and it was really effective, showing that he can kind of stretch even in this book stretch himself a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. So Gert is in the village of Shiitake. Took me a moment to realize that it's going to be all mushroom people, and my first thought was, where's Mario? Where's Luigi? Where's Princess Toadstool? Oh well. But yeah, basically she fights a bunch of Shiitake ninja mushrooms, and wow, this is just fun.
Yeah, it was good. It was well done.
Yeah, that style you're talking about, where she's having the conversation back and forth with one of the head mushrooms. I will, on this podcast, I don't care. They don't actually do anything for me, but I don't care. I'm still going to promote them. Comicsology Guided View, Comicsology.com and their Guided View. Those panels where it's one character per panel for the 2 or 3 pages that is, super awesome to look at the Guided View for that. Because going panel by panel is just so cool. So Gert kills all the mushrooms except for the big muscle-bound mushroom. I guess you could say he's the Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson of the Shiitake village. And, yeah, that didn't last long. She kills him, too.
Yeah, he was... again, that's that classic martial arts trope where you fight all these guys, they're kind of all, get rid of them, but then that one gigantic, huge muscle dude shows up, and, of course, she does what she does, but... also, I thought the ending was really effective, too, because she's doing all this to try to save this baby, or that's what she thinks she's doing, trying to bring it to... And it's almost... I mean, with it being in this setting, saving a child, you think of something like Wolverine, because it was very much his mantra, being, with that influence. But, of course, this is I Hate Fairyland, so at the end, that baby she saves, she finds out that it's because it was for a snack. And what's interesting is, if you go back to the previous Gertrude, that would kind of set her off and have her go back to her old ways, thinking, okay, she just gives up, she failed, she can't do that right. But the fact that she still kind of stays course, again, shows that even though this is kind of a ridiculous, over the top, sugar coated adventure story, He's finding Scotty Young is finding some room to add a little bit of actual development into all this.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just, I was like, oh, that's super twisted. Like, I wish Gert would have actually asked the village people, like, instead of having to fight them. Like, if you're on a quest of good, and she kind of realizes this later about it all, about the no killing thing, Batman's rule and all that. I wish that she would have, tried to talk to them, not just think that, they are evil kind of a thing.
Well, she does say that, like, she won't do harm until harm is done to her.
Yeah.
And they are very quick to do that. So, again, she's not all the way there, but she's at least adjusting to her, just kill and ask questions later. So she's improving, but it's a work in progress.
Oh yeah, very much work in progress. So after that, we have issue 13, which is basically turns into the Larry story, I think. Yeah, because they pull It's a Wonderful Life. And
yeah, we get a little bit kind of the idea of what his life would be like if he wasn't with Gertrude, thinking that at first seeming like it would actually be better and he would be more celebrated and not nearly as a drunkard as he is, but actually finding out that it would actually he is as much to blame for himself as Gertrude, and he's not he's got some problems that are bigger than the fact that he's teamed up with Devil Incarnate, basically.
Yep. Well, that's the reveal at the end of the trade. Yeah, Happy is most definitely the Devil Incarnate. I like this one. It's interesting to see a different side of Larry with a different person other than Gert. I don't know. There wasn't as many. I mean, there are a lot of jokes in here, but it wasn't as many as I would like, or I don't know. Maybe I just read the issue too fast. I think the funniest thing in this, because I just don't care for the show, is the fact that Scotty basically makes fun of Ellen and calls her Elfin with the Ellen show that Larry ends up on.
Yeah, this is a little bit more depressing.
Yeah,
just with what occurs, but I think part of it too is the way it's designed, where it's trying to start or show you what his life would be like. So at first, it's like you don't have Gertrude, so she's obviously a big part of that humor. So yeah, I don't think it's probably as per se, but it's probably a little less of the jokes, or at least it's not as overt with the comedy. Since it's kind of showing you what this book would be like if he was with like normal, everyday girls, so they're not going to be as crazy as she is. But by the end, we kind of see where it leads to. So, and again, it's more of a humor of like, oh, that's just twisted. Where some of the other type of humor we've gotten with the book it's twisted, but with a little bit more fun. This one doesn't have as much fun, but I think this volume seems to be like, okay, we've ran some of these jokes into the ground. What more can we do? And he's finding new room to like approach some of these characters.
Yeah. Did you feel it? Okay, so I read the trade for this. I read it digitally on Comixology. It's 124 pages for issues 11 to 15. We're already about to be talking about issue 14. Now, I know we haven't gone panel by panel dissecting every little thing, but with this series, we really can't. Like, this isn't like IDW's Transformers or Saga or whatever, Hadrian's Wall. This isn't like that. This is basically a comedy series. This is, okay, yes, it's a dark comedy series. It's also having depressing moments, like we just said. Issue 13, kind of dark and depressing when it comes to the whole Larry's "It's a Wonderful Life" moment. But I don't know. I feel like this whole trade, when I read, it only took me, usually trades that are 100 pages or more mostly usually take me 2 or 3 hours. This maybe took me 45 minutes to read. Because how I normally read digital comics is I read for the story and I will go back and I will appreciate the art afterwards. Unless it's a full-on splash page, which we do have some of those in here, but I pretty much read for the bubbles the first time around. And this read really fast.
Yeah, I always thought that's always been the case with this book, though. It's I think it would be out of the norm if this was, you would suddenly get like a 9-panel grid with a lot of heavy dialogue. I think for it, because ultimately this is supposed to be a takeoff of what would be a fairy tale child story, so it still, I think, need to exist in that realm of when it comes to just the pacing of it and the style. So if it were to be a slower read or be a little bit more plot heavy, I think it would kind of remove itself from the thing it's parroting. It's like if you watch Naked Gun and suddenly it's like, wow, they're actually taking time to really hammer home the procedural elements of this crime drama. It's like, that's not really what we go to see Naked Gun for.
Right.
So I think it's a fast read, but I kind of appreciate it as well. It is a a lot of this is, it's a visual medium, of course, but it being a humor book and a lot of that humor coming from the visual gags, it's I think a book where it's not necessarily always the words on the page that are telling the story. It's very much because this is an artist in writing the same book, he can trust himself and know where and when that he can just let his art tell the story, or where he could need to punch it up a little bit. But yeah, it's not a verbose story by any means.
Yeah, not at all. So chapter 14, I love the cover of this issue 14, I should say. I love the cover of this, the labyrinth cover with kind of like made out of Gert's face in the middle. I love that. That's so cool. So they're on their way to look for the labyrinth, and they find it, and they meet Loveth Lovelord. Oh boy. Yeah, I can see David Spade playing him in the movie. I don't know.
David Spade or David Duchovny?
David Spade.
Okay.
All I can think of is Joe Dirt with the mullet, except this guy has a reverse mullet. So yeah, she meets this guy, and she gets totally freaked out about him and everything else, and they go to make a deal. They start... Now, this is really where the jokes kind of caught me, is in this issue. Like, the balls of redemption, and, she's like, really? Couldn't have named them something else less dirty old manish? Oh, boy.
Yeah. Obviously, it's kind of a lowbrow type of joke, but again, it's self-aware in that aspect of it as well. So, which is kind of like, having your cake and eating it too. Would you like, I'm going to tell this joke, but also make fun of myself for telling this joke. So maybe it's a cheat, but yeah, this was probably to me maybe the weakest issue out of it all. I thought it was good, but it didn't have as much as the previous. I did like the running joke of everyone trying to marry her, especially because that's often like the case with a lot of like classic fantasy tales or things of that nature, where it's like, when you save the princess, you get to marry her for whatever reason, and realizing how that's kind of an odd thing to do, but I did find where it ended up well done, and as you mentioned, I did like the cover as well. It has like almost like an Aztec look to it.
Yeah. So Loveth Lovelord asks, they make a deal. He's going to give her his balls, because that's another part of the joke. And if she succeeds, and if she doesn't succeed, then he'll marry her. And like you just said, all these characters, that she passes along, kind of like Dorothy and Oz, end up getting killed by this guy because he's actually standing outside the maze, basically like a board game almost. And he's using various weapons to kill these people. That, like, the first little guy gets hit by a mace. The second one, who's on fire, I have no idea how that relationship would have worked. He puts him out, he puts him out with water. There's a snail that ends up salted. And sadly, with this one, all I can think of is there's too much salt in the margaritas. I'll take my traveler's checks to a competing resort. Burn this place to the ground. Good old Milton Wadhams from Office Space. We get to a point in this issue where they don't even show full scenes of how Loveth destroys these people. They just show the marry me, marry me, marry me, because it's like beating it into the ground here.
Yeah.
And there's like a million of them, and they finally do get to the center of the maze, but as always, no quote unquote villain is gonna keep his word. And they're gonna bring in a dragoon. Turns out to be Duncan, who we've met before.
Yeah, who I didn't realize he was actually really a dragon for whatever reason, but
he's not. Well, he isn't. He wasn't at first.
Yeah.
He was the kid in the dragon costume. That was, I think, the last couple of issues. Yeah, it was issues 7 and 8. How to Drain Your Dragon. That's when we met him, and he was just a kid trapped in Fairyland in a dragon costume. But apparently now he has dragon powers.
It's like reborn with ability to fly, and I thought that was the case. I'm like, maybe I missed something, because it seems like he can actually breathe fire now, which is kind of cool. And but yeah, and then of course it ends up with where we get the name of this volume with
Good Gert. Yep. So Gert is now good. This is gonna be freaky. Like, so between 14 and 15, at the end of 14, she becomes Good Gert. Let's just think of 37, 38 years. Since we started reading the series and talking about it on the show here, they've told us it's been 37 or whatever many years that Gert has been trapped in Fairyland. For some odd reason, she can't find a key or the way out back to her own world. And now she goes good, and within like the first 5 or 6 pages of issue 15, she finds the key and is ready to go home. But there's some other big bad around. Okay, I don't mind the fact that if this was going, obviously the series is continuing. I know right now, I looked a moment ago, we're gonna at least have issues 16 to 20. I don't know if we'll have anything past 20, but I assume because Comixology didn't tell me, hey, this is the final issue or anything like that. So there might be 2 arcs left in this. I don't know. Volume 4 and 5. Usually when comic companies like Image or like IDW do volumes, it's usually 1 through 5 most of the time, even if the series ends. But yeah, Gert, like you said earlier, Gert has come a long way. And now the fact that she's good and she can actually complete the I Hate Fairyland quest, wow.
Yeah, if you think about back to the second arc, I think, where, or forget first or second arc, where she had that competition of what her name was, Happy, I believe, the person that just realizing that it seems the thing that was always getting in the way of Gert was herself, because suddenly now the fact that she's not a horrible person, she's able to get a lot of these things and ask for help, where before her method was just brute force. But still seeing that no one really feels like she still elicits fear out of everyone, and where that's coming from. But and then of course, just because of the way things are, she thinking of everything that might kill her, what ends up doing it was rather, it's like the guy who is, about to score a touchdown and no one can stop him, but suddenly he trips over his own 2 feet, or he fumbles up before the goal line. This is kind of what happens to her.
Yep, it does. She gets, within inches, and one of those stupid Manning people take it away from her. Anyway, so yeah, we start at the castle, and the guards, are like, "Oh no, somebody's approaching! Oh no, it's the end of the world! Wake the king up!" King runs naked to the place and ends up getting dressed, and come to find out, it's good Gert with a giant sword. "Hello, Mr. King. It's very nice to see you and your very brave-looking army today." I love that. I just love that. So basically, she trades him the sword for the recipe for soup. So it basically becomes a trade-off. Like, she eventually wants something, somehow, some way. Obviously, it's the trade-off to it. She's now on the quest for the key. So she basically, it's kind of like going to a flea market and saying to somebody, "Oh, I want this, but I only have this amount of money," and the person's like, "Well, I'll give it to you for that price if you can go find me this." And then you go to the next person, "Well, I'll trade you this if you'll get me that," that kind of thing. So that's where we are here with this on this quest, and it's interesting to see her go on the traditional Fairyland quest now finally. And actually see her almost succeed.
Yeah, and this also leads to the fact that you have this in the background, or you have the gathering of all people like thinking this is an opportunity to finally take her out, because she's not this psychopath that seems to be unstoppable, and there's like actually some type of stakes there, because you're wondering okay, how exactly is she gonna get out of this? Because clearly she's oblivious to anything out. She's all gumdrops and fairy tales, but of course, as luck has it, you think, okay, well, she's safe, and then Scotty Young's like, "No, she's not, and let me show you in the most graphic way possible just how not she is." I just thought that the image of what actually happened was like, wow, he did not hold back when it came to that moment. It felt like that was one of the panels he's been waiting to draw since he began this book.
Yep, absolutely. What I want to know is, who the hell is the witch talking to? That's what I want to know. Because she contacts someone through her crystal ball.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I don't want to... As I said, I've read ahead, so I don't want to ruin it for you. So.
Right, but that's my burning question at this point. Is, who the heck is that person?
It kind of reveals it at the end of this issue, or you get an idea of who it might be based upon when she goes to hell and who she sees.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I wasn't sure if it was going to be happy or not. Like, before I read this, obviously, as I was reading it, I was like, who the hell is she talking to? And then obviously we get to the end, and of course it is happy. So basically, the witch and all the evil people that Gertrude has kind of defeated before, the ones that she hasn't killed, basically all have to team up, and they'll all get paid as long as Gertrude is dead.
Yeah, simple enough.
Mm-hmm. Is it just me, or did I just now notice that the king has an ice cream cone on his head?
I don't know if you just noticed that, but I trust you.
Has it been there the whole time is my question. Like, I just now am seeing this, thinking,
I believe so. I couldn't... There's so many brightly colored candy themed things, it's hard to keep track.
Oh man, can you imagine if Gert met up with Vanellope? It's a sugar rush. Oh god, Gert and Vanellope with Larry and Ralph. That would be hilarious. Crossover. So somebody threw her a lollipop, and she ends up tripping because they all throw their weapons at her, trying to kill her. The lollipop is what kills her because she ends up tripping, and yeah, she goes splat.
And it stays consistent because Gert's been this person that seems like she just can't get out of her own way, and even in this case, she legitimately can't get out of her own way to the point where, she has a lollipop, like do the Chuck Norris move that goes right through her skull and her brain pops out.
So Gert ends up in this dank, dark, hot place, and until she actually was able to wake up, she doesn't know where she is. And welcome to hell. Population of happy. Wow. I kind of, but wasn't expecting this when I first read it.
Yeah, I didn't think he'd actually like legitimately, kill her. Obviously, it's definitely a weird thing here because it's clearly continuing. But yeah, the way that he went about it was, like I said, it was like, wow, I thought that was great.
Yeah, it was absolutely so fun. Just like the first two arcs of this series, I absolutely love it. I'm very sad that this is coming to an end at some point. Have we received any news as to when it's ending? Like, is there has he said, or his image said, there's a specific issue that is the final issue?
I don't remember, to be honest with you. It's been hard to keep track of all these different books. So I just remember him saying that it's probably coming to an end soon, and it feels like it's getting to that point. Just where the story currently is. So, but it could be issue 50. I don't know. Just from what I remember him saying, and he had a desired endpoint, which makes sense because, like I said, I think this story can keep going, but I don't think it's one that you would really. I'd rather see it end before it gets too tiresome. And now that he's he's been working for Marvel for some time, but if he's going to be taking over Deadpool full time,
right?
And if that is successful, he could probably write more for Marvel. He's not drawing it though, so that I don't know if he'll do more creator-owned books after this. He's talked about having some other ideas in the play. I've listened to a few of his interviews, and I think that might be where he goes next. But yeah, so it's not been officially announced. I don't believe so, because I know like Kill Be Killed, for example, is ending in issue 20. But I hopefully find out soon.
Very cool. Very cool. Overall, for all 5 issues, the entire arc, what would you give it 0 to 5?
I do think it's a solid 4. This is where it's basically as good as it can be, if that makes sense. Like it's enjoyable, it's fun. As we mentioned, it's a light, enjoyable read. But it's and like I said, I did feel like this one had a little bit more development than even some of the previous issues. I did have the one issue which I wasn't the hugest fan of. I just thought the joke ran into the ground a little bit, and it's trying to have it both ways. But it's everything you want. I feel like it's still one of the most consistent books. If you enjoyed the first issue, you're going to pretty much love every issue of the series.
Absolutely. I'm going to give it a 4.5. I kind of enjoyed the Larry issue, but you're right, it kind of went on a little too long. But the rest of it was just absolutely great. Interesting character development for Gert. The fact that, she's turned good and she actually was able to succeed even though her plans were foiled by Happy and all of that. But I love seeing all the various characters. As I said before, at least no harm came to any sun or moon this time around. Yeah, I can't wait to see what Scotty does next for Creator Own, what he comes up with next, because this series has been really fun.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep. All right, folks. I think that's going to do it for us. What have you got coming up on Comic Concierge?
I have a few things coming up. Speaking of Image, a few Image books will be talking about Revival with Matt Stewart from Simplistic Reviews. We've been continuing to look at Howard County from Dark Horse, and with JD Rand, I'll be talking about the series Royal City Volume 2 coming up as well. So,
absolutely. You recently put out your top 50 comics for April. That was a read and a half.
Yeah, I'm currently working on one now for May, because as we're recording this, we're the last Wednesday of May, which is a 5 Wednesday month, which I feel like every month this year has been a 5 Wednesday month. I don't know, it's been weird.
It is not. Trust me, I would know.
I know. I'm just kidding.
No, I know.
But yeah, that'll be out soon. So yeah, I've been trying to do a countdown each month, and then at the end of June, I'll be doing just my favorite comics of the year so far, including graphic novels. So we can look for that at the end of June.
Absolutely. I don't know if you've read or if you plan on reading, but definitely for May, something that needs to make the list. I don't know where you'll put it, obviously, because you're almost reading more than I am at this point. But Nightwing: The New Order, oh my God.
That I did. That included in my
okay.
best of 2017. But that what the trade came out, right?
The trade came out this month. Yeah.
So it wouldn't count for May because it didn't come out in single issue. It's only single issues.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, no, I didn't even know. Like, I was a little busy last year, so I didn't even know. I didn't even know the 6-issue miniseries was coming, and then I saw the trade get released, and I'm like, when did this happen? This is Kyle Higgins. It's Kyle Higgins and Trevor McCarthy, and I'm like, damn, I need this. Yeah. I read it, and I'm like, wow.
It was in my top 100 comics of 2017. I don't forget where, but I did like that a lot. It was quite good. It was like Nightwing's version of Dark Knight Returns, but with it being Nightwing, it's not nearly as dark and glooming as Frank Miller. But it's a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that series.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, I need to double check. I need to check something. I'm going to close it out in a second, but I hope there's nothing wrong. Because I just opened the recorder and it shows something.
I recorded on my end as well.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, damn it. It's showing me 0. Well, maybe it's because we're still recording. Let me close it out and I'll have you go through where people can reach you and things like that. So yeah, folks, Nightwing New Order, I Hate Fairyland Volume 3, obviously very, very cool. Check out Dan's show, Comic Concierge. It's very fun and a new and interesting way to look at comics here on the GCRN. I Hate Fairyland Volume 3, very, very good. Looking forward to the next trade as well. Where can the people find you online, sir?
I am on Twitter at MovieRevolt, and you can find me on Instagram at Comic Concierge.
Absolutely. I am on Twitter at TFG1Mike. You can also follow at Geekcast Radio and at The Pullbag for all the other updates for the network and for the podcast as well. Join us next time when A-Das Baron returns to chat about He-Man Thundercats with me here, only inside The Pullbag. Make your great escape into comics.
You've just heard the latest episode of The Pullbag, the GCRN's comic review and discussion podcast. There are several ways to get in touch with us and leave feedback for the show. You can visit the website, geekcastradio.com, where you can comment on the episode and all of our different podcasts. You can rate our show on iTunes. Be sure to leave us feedback. Call the voicemail line, 502-526-5821. Please remember to tell us the show you are leaving the message for, and your name. Become a fan of us on Facebook by searching Geekcast Radio Network. Send us an email feedback at geekcastradio.com. Follow us on Twitter at Geekcast Radio. So until next time, make your great escape into comics and unleash the geek in you.